Hi everybody, Sandi Clarkson here with you today. I'm just going to be doing a process video for My Creative Scrapbook using the January limited edition kit. And I'll just show you what I've been thinking so far. I've been working most of the morning trying to figure out what I want to do on this layout here. And I did want to use this pink paper here. I either wanted to use it as a background, you know, full on, or just even as a portion of it. But I decided I wanted to use it and then cut a couple of, you know, strips for some layers. And so originally I cut this one here from that big pink sheet. The back side of that is the drawers. But I wanted to get this little cluster down here if I could, although it would have been fine just to get the pink paper right there. And then I thought I would offset it with a narrower piece of these junk drawers, since that's the name of the collection. And, you know, played around with, you know, putting one on top of the other, just trying to figure that out. And if I want them to go all the way to the top or not. So, but maybe something like that. And then I wanted to use a couple of these things that I've got laid aside somewhere, but I wanted that half so I could have these little journaling spots that I did have left over this right here. So I thought actually about doing that instead of the junk drawers, but then I think that the layers would be really nice. I don't necessarily want the ABC there, but you know, I hate to trim it off just because I want plenty of the beige, you know, background to show despite having these other layers. And the photo that I'm going to use is of the daughters and I, along with the granddaughter. And if you can see from our masks, it must have been Christmas of 2020 because, you know, we were all masked up at the mall doing our Christmas shopping. But anyway, I thought that my lime green sweatshirt went really well with, you know, this paper. I was considering doing a layout of Lucy, one of her more glamorous photos, but I decided I think I want to go with this and then maybe use her on the other layout. And then for additional layers, I was bringing in the journaling spot that I was, you know, coveting, and now I'm thinking about using it as a, you know, a layer behind my photo, but that's okay. And then this would be nice because it already gives the illusion of multiple layers. So, you know, I could tuck that in back there. And then I wanted to use this torn ticket right here. And I guess ideally it needs to go right side up. So it could go like that, or it could go in between these other two pieces, kind of like that. So either way. And then I also wanted to use from the chipboard set, I wanted to use this viewfinder, and I definitely wanted it on this side of the page so that my the butterfly would show. But as I thought through it, you know, I don't necessarily need the whole thing, so I probably will snip it off or kind of in half or thirds and put a section of it over here. So I needed to settle that. I wanted it lower, but then I think I've decided I'm going to go ahead and move it up a little bit because I want to use my florals. And I'm trying to leave some florals for my fourth layout, and it may not have pink on it, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and use the pink ones here. And so I was kind of thinking somewhere along the lines of, you know, using these here, and then this one up here, which is kind of my go-to style, and then use the chipboard piece, you know, along here somewhere. So that's what I've thought about so far. I was also debating on my title. Originally, I wanted to use this big, long, noteworthy title, which I could still do, but you know, I'll just show it to you in case you decide you want to do that. It could go right along here. You know, it could go running, you know, vertically, which that might be cute. Someone might think about that. So that's one option. Also from the chipboard set that's treasured would be a good option. But I pulled out some others from the ephemera. And I have been wanting to use this little remember title piece. So it could be that. And then this one that says for always. But I probably would want to trim away that blue ticket, and I could replace it with a different color or just leave it bare. This already says simple pleasures over here, although I don't know how much of that will be showing. Another option that I really like was this ephemera piece that just says memories, and so the size works really great for this, and you know that's a good choice, and it would stand out. And then this one that says moments to treasure. And there was another one that says simple pleasure, but we already have simple pleasure on there. So I kind of want to decide between one of these, you know, or this one or the noteworthy. So I haven't decided yet. It's too bad you're not here to help me figure that out. But anyway, I do think that these would look good. If you didn't want that much dimension, you can tear your florals apart and just use the amount that you want. And of course, I haven't trimmed my photo yet, and I haven't chosen my photo mat, so I need to do that. I still haven't had a chance to use my pearls, so I could, you know, use them and work them into my floral cluster, which that would be pretty. That, you know, even though it's a picture, it's kind of a Christmas picture, but you can't really, you wouldn't know that unless I told you. And so I could use the pearls here, or I could save them for my fourth layout. And then, you know, I obviously could also use one of the doilies. You know, even though I've, you know, had a doily layout, this could go even behind here. And that actually looks pretty good, so I might even do that. Just, we have them, and I really like doilies, so that would be really pretty. And so that's where I am so far. So I think I'll go ahead and go off camera and just get busy making my final decisions and take you along with me. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, so as you can see here, I did go ahead and trim away the ABC that was on the left hand side of this piece of paper. Because this is vintage inspired, the pattern is not totally linear. It was on there just a little bit of a you know, kind of at a diagonal, and so I decided that would bother me, that it was narrower at the bottom than at the top, so I just trimmed it off. And I think I've got plenty there to serve as, you know, the background that I had wanted. I kind of wish in hindsight that I'd taken more of the pink paper and just got the pink part that was in the center and focused less on those florals right there, because they do kind of blend in with the other florals on my base layer. Alternatively, I could have come in with some white gesso and just kind of faded out the floral pattern there on the background. I kind of wish I had, but I didn't. I thought I was going to get enough definition from, you know, these layers right here. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. But anyway, so I'm putting down the pink one. I'm using my T-square there to make sure that's lined up. And then I took that one, and I just wanted 2 drawers, so I kind of went, my measurements I think are, that one's about 4 inches by 10 and a half, and the other one's more like 4 or 5 inches by 10 and a half. And then the one on the bottom is about the same width as the pink one. And so I got those together, and then I decided I am going to go with that doily there, but I decided I had 2 doilies stuck together, And you know, when that happens, they're a little bit whiter and creamier, and I like the thickness and the creaminess of them. So I opted for taking 2 of them there and using them as a layer. And I like how that looks. It looks more like a crocheted doily. And so there, I'm just trimming up some corrugated cardboard to put behind my photo. I did mount my photo on some of the green floral paper from the collection, and that just kind of went well with my sweatshirt that I'm wearing. And I distressed with some ink in peeled paint, distress ink and peeled paint, which I had used the 49 Market green jean on one of my other layouts, and that looked really nice. I could have used that on this layout as well, but I just already always have a vintage photo and a peeled paint, you know, dauber ready to go, so they're always just right there and handy. So there I'm getting together and the layers that we talked about before, and I'm going to use that journaling piece there and just kind of put my photo in kind of the middle. And I do cover up the journaling area, but you know, I'm just using it for the appearance and the looks. And then the other one, of course, looks like multiple layers already, and that's just going to go nicely behind. You could even cut that up, but I kind of wanted it for color along the sides as well, so that's one reason I didn't trim that and use it for something else, because the width of it was going to be good for me. And there I'm just taking some scrap corrugated cardboard to put behind this layer. Just it seemed like I needed everything up off the base layer a little bit more, so I'm doing that right there and adhering that other piece, and then I'm going to lay it down, and I'm bringing over that chipboard viewfinder to see exactly where I need it to go. And there I do go ahead and trim it in half, because I know that I'm going to use, you know, it on each side of the photo. I decided that was definitely a good idea, and so I'm going to go ahead and put that down, figuring out what your pieces are and where you want them to go and what you're not going to use. That's what takes up so much time in scrapbooking, at least for me. Once I get going and I've got those decisions made before I start my process video, then everything comes together pretty quickly. The chipboard stuck really well to the doily. You know, doilies just seem to attract that kind of thing, so I didn't worry about any glue right there. I did afterwards kind of lift it and add a little bit of glue just so it won't come apart later on. And then I decide that I do want one of those leafy petals in between these two florals, and so I just stick that right there and consider using them on the other single flower, but I don't, because I don't need it. So I've got 2 more to use somewhere else. And there I'm just kind of contemplating, you know, if that needs to be elevated or not, which I think it does, so it can cover just a little bit. I don't like the 2 layers just side by side. I like them nestled together like this. That's what is more pleasing to my eye. So I put one down, and then I test it out, and then I decide that I need a little bit more, so I go with 2 layers. Well, no, I don't. I take that back. I remember now. I decided that 2 layers was too much, and so I just grabbed one of my foam squares, and that was a lot better because it was just not quite as high. And then I'm just going to put the other pink flower and kind of tuck it underneath so it just kind of peeks out. And I like how that looks. And then now I'm coming along to decide for sure about my title piece, and I'm trying those out, and I don't think there's a wrong answer, because, you know, they all would have worked with the right embellishment or placement or whatever. As I'm doing my voiceover, I was thinking how nice that noteworthy chipboard looked in the vertical direction, and, you know, that would have been ideal. And so I want to tuck something in there in the floral cluster, and I start with this little ticket right here, But then I decide later that I want to use a blue one to coordinate a little bit with the title that I'm using right here. So I just happen to have a piece of chipboard already sized for this right here, and I wanted to make sure that the always was straight because that's the primary word in that little cluster. And I like how that looks because it looks multi-layered. It looks like you took a lot of time, and yet it's just one piece. And then I bring over that little starred chipboard circle. It looks like it's something Texan. And so I decided to use that, and I decided to use the clock. And that clock says 4 o'clock, which just happens to be about the time that we finished our girl shopping day this year. In previous years, we've stayed, really late and start at 10 a.m. So we have a lot of fun. We eat lunch and we do shopping for the grandkids. So anyway, I've got that title piece in place, at least what I think is going to be my title piece. And there I'm looking around for anything else. And this is when I decide to bring over the blue ticket. And then because it was from the cardstock stickers, it's sticky. I hadn't put any powder on it. And so I'm committed to one layering on top of the other one. But I trim away the one on the bottom. I hated to lose it like that, but tearing them apart would have been kind of an ordeal to do while I was videoing. If that happens to you, you can try your undo and see if you can get them apart, which you should be able to do. And then I'm deciding that I really want some butterflies, and so I'm going to take that large pink one and put it on a foam square and put it up there on the left-hand upper side, and that looks really nice. And then I want another one to go over on the right, and so I end up grabbing my sheet of butterflies and I fussy cut, and I hope I don't do all that on camera here, but I do fussy cut. Oh, good. And so I did fussy cut this little pink one, and I'm going to put it on one of those small foam squares, and then I'm going to put it over on the right hand side, kind of midway. And that looks so cute. And I really wanted to trim out all these butterflies, but I haven't done it yet. But I'm not done yet either, so we'll see what happens. And here I decided to cut out that little black rectangular piece. I'm thinking that I need something where I can put a date or something. Originally I was thinking about fussy cutting that little tiny butterfly and putting that somewhere, but then I just decided not to do that. But I actually put a subtitle piece from the cardstock pack, and I try it on the flowers, and then ultimately I try it on that little strip right there, and then I end up not using it now, at least, but I did audition it, and I have it for another time. I thought about putting it right there, and it probably would have worked okay, but I'm pretty busy with all the florals and all the little bits and pieces that I've got going on, so I guess either way would have been fine. And then I do splatter some paint, and we're getting ready for the close-ups. There's details below about how to order a kit. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more of my content in your feed. Thanks for coming by. Bye-bye.